Hello, Internet. Thank you once again for joining me on YouTube to talk to your favourite vertical stars. You probably know who this is, but if you don't, it is the very amazing Molly Anderson, who is joining me to share her life and times in verticals, which I think we can say, because you feel like a veteran, even though you're crazy young, because you've been in the verticals since the early days. So in my
Yeah.
head, you've like been here since black and white verticals, and now you're in the full colour, all singing, all dancing ones. So I'm going to ask you if you can very briefly give a little outline of who you are to the internet.
Oh, yes. Okay. So my first vertical ever was in 2023, and it was the double life of my billionaire husband. And I showed up thinking I had just gotten like scammed off of Actors Access, and then it turned into the biggest thing since sliced bread. And then all of the verticals exploded into this whole world, and I was like, no, I'm never doing these ever again. And now I've done 25, and I love them.
Do you get like an award? I feel like for 25, because like if it was a wedding anniversary, well in the UK you get something silver. I feel like
Yeah,
there should be
yeah.
a plaque,
There
some
should be
sort of
something. We
long
should make little,
service.
yeah, we should get little like medals or something. That'd be so fun. Jen, I
Um,
feel like this is your project.
okay, I'll write it down. Make medals. We can do that. So going back to your childhood, where are you from? Did you grow
Oh,
up in LA or?
no, I'm from a little village in northern Michigan. At its peak population, it had 261 people. So I individually made up half of a percentage of the town's population, and then the rest for my family. So then I was like, I want to go be an actor. And they were like, yes, you do that. You follow your dreams, baby girl. And so LA was just kind of like always the plan because it's the hub, it's the mecca like for the entertainment industry in the US. So I showed up when I was 20, and so this will be coming this summer will be up to my third LA year. I love it dearly. And then yeah, the verticals showed up like a year into my journey here. I was like a production assistant. I was every kind of assistant under the sun for my day job. I love film. I love being in film and just like working in the industry in general. And then the verticals took me into full-time acting, and that's been how it's worked out since.
So when you were a kid, did you have like favourite roles or movies? Were like the ones you rewatched and were like, I want to do that.
Yeah, I was a pretty censored kid. My mom didn't really believe in letting us have like internet access or like watching many movies and TV shows. So all of my early favorites were like the animated ones. Like I wanted to be like the Disney princesses or like in that world, which I guess is kind of what happened. Like I feel like these are all little fairy tale stories and fantasy stories. So that's really fun. And then I wanted to be Selena Gomez on Wizards of Waverly Place really badly. I wanted to be Miley Cyrus in Hannah Montana. I wanted to be any of the girls. I wanted to be Ashley Tisdale or Brenda Song on Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, which I did work with Dylan Sprouse when I was 19. I played his girlfriend in a music video. So I sort of checked that box. I was a
That's
zombie. You can kind of
amazing.
do.
I have to ask, going back to Disney princesses, which one's your favourite? This is important.
My first favorite was Snow White. And then I was really into, I had a little crush on Mulan for sure. So, but I always looked the most like Aurora. So those are my top three. And then Ariel, because duh, she's a freaking mermaid. Which, speaking of mermaids, keep your eyes peeled.
Um,
I'm not gonna be a mermaid, but it's happening.
how was it going from somewhere where presumably everyone knows everyone, when you're half a percent of the population, to potentially where no one knows your name in LA? Was there ever any hesitation, or were you so like, this is it, I'm doing it?
This was it. I was doing it. I wanted to go back to New York. When I was 19, I moved to New York by myself for a couple months, and I fell in love with it in the city. And I was like, this is where I want to be forever. And so I started working in film. And then I went back and finished college that year. And so then when I was deciding like what's next, I really wanted it to be New York, but I just figured that LA had more film So that was as simple as that decision was, honestly. And but it was really comforting. Like, I've always loved big cities, and I think I feel really exposed in small towns where everyone knows everyone, because you can't escape, you can't, there's no privacy, like everyone knows everyone's business and everyone knows exactly who you are. And so in a big city, you have anonymity in a way that I feel like you lose in a small town. So I actually feel more private. And like, you're also not expected to. I showed up my first year, and everyone I passed on the street, I'd be like, "Hi, how are you?" And they're like, "You're from the Midwest, aren't you?" And then after I heard that, yeah. And so I kind of learned to not be quite so emphatic in my greetings with people. And so now sometimes I worry that I'm too cold and like mean. I'm trying to bring back smiling at people that I don't know. I think it's good to do.
Oh no, it's good. You'd work in London though. You can do that in London. You can just go around and not engage with anyone. I mean, that's
Really?
very easy to do. Although I remember taking my daughter when she was 3, and she was adorable, and she said hello to everyone in the street in London. Confused all these Londoners. This cute little toddler going hello. Like, so
Hi.
yeah, that kind of
Baby, if you
works. But
don't,
yeah, it's very adorable.
I don't care where we are. If a baby says hi to you and you don't say hi back, you're an asshole. Like, you have to.
Exactly.
It's one of those, it takes the village rules. You have to say hi to the kids.
It's a life rule, isn't it? So once you're in LA and you're kind of working in and around the film industry, what's the what's the first word on the street when you did you hear about them as mobisodes or
Yeah.
verticals? What was yeah.
No, no, no. Verticals was just kind of like a colloquial term that you'd kind of call them, because on Actors Access breakdowns, they were called mobisodes, or I called them mobisodes for like a little bit, because someone else, I don't know what they're called. But they were labeled as mobisodes. And then, but it was like a very fractured thing. Like, there were a couple popping up like here and there, but it was pretty much just real short at the very beginning. And then, but they were like little independent fires. So it didn't turn into like a culture or like a whole cohesive genre until like beginning of 2024, I feel like, was when it started to develop. And then even 2025 has felt like another turning point, and like it shifted up in a different way, and all the publications and the press, and um yeah, it's been a crazy world to watch go from literally 0 to 100. And it's not done yet. It still has more to keep growing. And I can't imagine, I'm like excited and terrified to see what that peak will look like. But I had a big mentality shift, because when I first started doing them, they were so like scrappy and podunk, and like nobody has any rights, and the contract was like super slim, and like it was just such a different game that I was really on the defensive for a while, because it felt like, okay, you got to watch your back. Like, you need to, there's no protections here. Like, you got to be really, really careful. And then after a while, I started looking around and realizing that I was being too reactive, because actually things had gotten better, but in my head, they were still like really base level. And so then I had a moment of like, wait, this has leveled up. I can trust this whole process more, and I can be a little bit more open to what's going on, because we won. Like, we got a lot of really good stuff for ourselves and for the industry, and the film sets as a whole.
So have
That's
you
my
worked out like between you or no, it's brilliant. I love it. Have you worked out between you kind of like who was in the OG vertical? Is there like I feel like a history book of who can, because you
Yeah, yeah,
must be
yeah.
in
So I
one of
can.
them because you're in
So,
the
Double Life of My Billionaire Husband was like first like five, I think, in the US. It wasn't the first, but it was one of the first. And so that one was me and Jared Harper and Avery, who doesn't do them. I think that was kind of her first and her last. But she's back in LA, so who knows? Maybe she had a moment as being a princess in Paris, which was, I love that for her. Now she's back in LA, maybe she'll like reappear on the scene. And then the other ones at that time that had come out was Casey Esser and Autumn had just done a werewolf one. and I don't know who the supporting lead was, and I don't know who the guy was. I can kind of picture their faces, but I don't know if they're still in the game. I remember seeing that one on Actors Access though, and being like, I don't think that Werewolf Fantasy is like my truth, and like not submitting for it. And then it went so crazy, and then it inspired all the other werewolf ones, and eventually I was like, well, I'm gonna have to do a werewolf one eventually, like I guess, which I do think they're fun, and I feel like the whole vertical world is so ridiculous anyway. It's like, we might as well be werewolves, like, sure, like, yeah, that's not going to be what tips us over the edge of like, okay, now it's not a realistic story. Like, yeah, give me the claws, give me the fangs, whatever, let's do it. And then the
I
only other
guess
one,
there's that thing. Once you start going like, okay, what's realistic, what's not? Like, where do you draw that line? So,
we're done. Like werewolves, like whatever, sure, bucket. Or like vampires. The only other vertical I can think of that was around at that time was Candace's. And I don't know who anyone else in it is. Maybe if I saw the poster, I could tell you. But in my, all I know is it was Candace's like double Secret Life, where she was the heiress, and that one was really big. And those were kind of like the OG three for a minute, and then it blossomed, I think.
That's brilliant. You've given us a history lesson. That's what we needed. So when was it kind of around project-wise that then you kind of relaxed into it and were like, these are here to stay, I kind of get the format, I'm enjoying it? Do you remember when that was? Which project?
Yeah, I can figure it out. So it wasn't those two. The first two were fun, but I did the first, and then the second one, Real Short, just asked me to come back for it. And so then I was like, I'm not going to just like say no to like acting work that's being handed to me right now. Like, sure, yes, absolutely. But then after that one, I was like, okay, I'm done. Definitely done. No more. And then Casey and I ended up doing another werewolf one at the beginning of 2024, and that was the one where I kind of like conceded because I avoided it for the rest of 2023 after that summer. And then, but I didn't relax then. It wasn't China. And then probably one of the ones I did during the summer. It might have been Billionaire Callboy was probably the beginning of me realizing that it was different, I think.
Yeah.
That's my best guess.
Okay, that's very helpful. So one of the ones that a lot of people know you for, and you won Best Comedy Scene for, and were nominated for Best Comedy Actress, is Lisa in We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, which is actually it's a brilliant vertical. It's so good. It's actually quite long as well. I don't think there's many verticals that are that long now, because that's nearer 2 hours, that one, isn't it? It's about 90 episodes, I think, or 96. There's a lot of dialogue in that, and there's a lot of like screwball bickering comedy. Just kind of what are your memories of that one, and were you kind of getting a sense of when you looked at that some of this is really fun, the dialogue? I've got some great lines here.
Yeah, so that script was a process. So Real Short had reached out to me in like February of that year, which I think this was 2024, and they had said they wanted to write one for me as a lead, which was super exciting. And they had kind of pitched me like a like rom-com pretty much, and they're like, we want to make the rom-com like a genre, because before that most of them were these pretty heavy dramas. Comedy and like the lighthearted ones didn't really exist at that point, and so I was super excited about that. And then the first draft I got had a lot of elements that I won't do, and I know like you can probably guess what that list is. And so we had a very long kind of process back and forth of like, okay, how do we make this a rom-com and like still make it dramatic and intense for the people, but in a way that's maybe a little bit more appropriate for a rom-com. And so I really love the script the final script. And so reading like that last draft, being like, we got it, like, this is great, this is going to be fun. My favorite part is like the goldfish motif. Just it's so silly, but the fact that she comes with the freaking goldfish, and I've seen the fans really, like get attached to the little goldfish in the bag. I thought that was so super, super fun. And just the fact that it was a heroine who got to fight back too. Like that was not like new, but that wasn't super common at that point either, to have a girl who was like gonna like throw it back in your face. So I'm really proud of that one. And yeah, I'm glad that people connected with it. Of course, your awards, like the nominations came in for that, and it was so fun to see like people did like this. Like it did have an impact, and you can find the numbers and everything, but everyone's got their own opinions and stuff kind of gets lost in the mix. And so I feel like that was when I realized that people really did love it, and I wasn't, it did exist. People did get attached to it.
That is one of the things, isn't it? Just, I mean, and obviously it's gone up and up and up, just the speed at which stuff comes out.
Yeah.
Both for you as an actress and then multiply that across everyone else and a huge amount of apps. It feels like you've got a very short time to make an impact for something to land and potentially then, I mean, I know sort of certain the platforms will then see what hits immediately and then they'll pump the marketing into that and then push it more and more. It feels like so much pressure and that there's a lot of great projects that get lost. So I think that's the challenge, isn't it? Of like actually trying to revisit some of these. Of like, some of the other ones we're going to talk about are absolutely brilliant rom-coms that I really hope people who are new go back and revisit.
There's kind of a joke in whenever we're on set and people start to be like, wait, this is pretty good. And they're like, it's going to flop. We've done it. Like, it's not going to do well. Because the ones that you feel like really have like the elements of a great movie never, or I mean, not never, almost never perform. And it's so frustrating. You can't get attached to them. And then whenever it's going badly, it's like, we've made a hit, guys. We're topping the charts. Like, this is going to make 200.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about Fated to My Billionaire Callboy.
Yeah.
I love that one so much.
I do
Like,
too, and I'm so bummed no one else did.
I find that really hard because in my head that's like one of the best classic
It's
verticals.
such a
But from what
good
you said, then
classic.
it's not done the numbers, so it wouldn't be looked at by a data person and going that's a hit then.
I will say I was at Nicole Maddox's birthday party. Fucking love Nicole. Um and Rebecca was there, and she told me, she's like, I want you to know how much I love Billionaire Callboy. And like I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. That means a lot to me, because I was honestly like really disappointed when it didn't go off, because I felt I was so excited filming it, because it was a script that I read and I saw it play out in my head, and it was like funny and it was punchy and it was like heartbreaking at times and like good. And I got to work with Noah, who is one of my favorite scene partners ever, and it's like always just such a treat, because like he's so good that it's easy and like fun, and you can like play. And I just loved so much of that. And our director Steven, and like our producer Serena, like I had such a great time with it that I was really bummed out for a while, honestly, after, when it just like didn't get the love that I felt like it deserved. But it's still one of my, if so people ask me like what are my favorites that I've done, like that is definitely like a top three for me.
Because there's an awesome friendship in that as well. That's what I love. It's one of
Yes.
the ones I felt had an early like girls together friendship. I think it's Christine, isn't it? And
Yeah, and Christine's
characters,
so
Maggie.
brilliant. Like she was also like honestly the whole cast was great. Like it was pretty stacked. Our Mean Girl trio in that is one of the best Mean Girl trios like to ever have done it. I think they are so funny. Like I was laughing, just cracking up on set, like watching them. And we had Michael in that one. Michael and I had one of my favorite vertical scenes I've ever done, with a great little dinner, and he's the sleazy date. I loved it. My boss in that one is fantastic and hilarious. My grandma's
What?
heartbreaking.
So, and then I love as well Richmond Keeling's character Jimmy, who basically
Jimmy.
it's one of the funniest scenes where he's basically then acting as pimp for Noah Fernley's character Dominic, and it's got to be one of the best assistants of like I am going so far above and beyond you. I mean, just the two of them. It's like
Seriously.
it's genius comedy, and I'm like, yeah, that's one of the
The
ones for
film,
me that was like verticals sit alongside mainstream Hollywood, if not a better. Just the comedy of it
ugh,
is phenomenal.
it was so the filming that the phone call scenes was one of my favorite parts. I think that that one cut together so funny, and I actually. I'm pretty sure I have a couple clips from that. I do on my like theatrical demo reel. I like cropped it in to look horizontal, and like it's kind of grainy, but I don't care. I used one of the car scenes. I have one of the car scenes in there, and maybe something else. I don't know. I think when he drops me off to work is what's in there. I don't know. Someone can check IMDb.
Okay,
You're a
and
jerk.
there's also it's very important. Contacts are crucial to the plot line. Claire didn't have such an
Yes.
issue with her contact lenses, there would be no plot. So I love that that's what
There's
drives the whole thing.
Hi,
Yo.
I'm talking to Jen.
Oh, hello, Jen.
Felix just walked in the door. He
Hello,
came back from a
Felix.
coaching session. Huge audition.
How you doing, Jen?
I'm all good.
We're
How are
recording.
you?
You.
I'm good.
Come say hi. Here's my cameo.
Hello.
Hello. What are you?
I was doing
you
really
guys
well. I've
talking
got to
about
remember
each
my
other?
questions now. Um, Molly's awesome, but you know that, so. And I caused tech issues as well. I gave Molly a headache with tech. So,
No, 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 no.
okay, so Billionaire Callboy is awesome, and you don't wear contact lenses in real life, do you?
No, I actually have my vision's better than 2020. That's one of my little brags.
I don't know why this became important. I needed to know. Like, did you wear contact lenses? Okay, so now my next favourite one of yours, which is another one of my all-time favourite rom-coms, and I know this because some newspaper is asking me to put together a list of my favourite verticals, and both of these are in it. Is
Oh,
I sold my special services to a billionaire
yes, with
with Griffin
Griffin.
Blasey. Oh my god, it's so good.
Yes.
It's so funny. It has
That
one
one.
of the most hysterical scenes of all time, which is Griffin Blasey and his tent outside your door. I
Oh
just,
yes, the tent. I remember filming that one. I wanted to see the shot, and so I think I climbed inside the tent. Like you don't see me, but I am like in that tent as well in real life, just like
yeah,
watching the scene play out. Because it was, I think it was raining when that happened, and so it was like we got to do this like now,
yeah.
before it's too obvious. And it was we filmed that entire movie in 2 weeks, fully overnight. Fun fact.
Really? How come it was all overnight
Yeah,
then? What was the
there was
decision
a
to do it
lot
all
of night
overnight?
scenes. The
Yeah,
decision to do it overnight was that the hotel that we were filming at was cheaper and easier if we filmed at night where people wouldn't be walking around in the shop. So, a lot of it, and I think there were a couple days where it was like a 2 p.m. call. So it was like you had like there are obviously a couple daytime scenes in there, but everything that's interior basically is in the middle of the night. And then there are just a lot of exterior night scenes there too. So it was 2 weeks, fully overnight.
that's amazing. And are you all right with that? That kind of adjust to your. I mean, you're young. You're probably fine with changing your sleep schedule like that to do those.
Um, it was a surprise. It was a surprise. We didn't actually know until we started filming. So it
Yeah.
was a little bit of a like, oh, now
So
we're
I would say
filming,
that
now our sleep.
I've watched you in those. I'm like, okay, Molly Anderson is like a phenomenal comic actress. She's great at quick banter. She's great at kind of holding her own against sort of, the male CEO. And then you go and do the Deadly Sweet Love, which, okay,
Yeah.
you are like action queen in that. Also, I will say this, you have the best legs in the business. I don't know anyone else who could pull off those leatherette pants. And then not only do that, but like kick angles that I don't think a human being should be able to get their legs in. Um, can we talk about like, did you have training? Like, is there a dance background? Where does all this skills come from?
Okay, so I read this script and I was like, I need this role. Like I will be doing this job. Like actually we can end the search here. Like I'll sign right now. Because I wanted to do action so badly. And it's just filled with like all this. It was a spy and it was Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And yeah, and I wanted to do all the stunts. I love stunt work. I was never like a competition dancer, but I grew up there's no film industry in Michigan, but you can do musical theater. You can't really do straight plays, but you can do theater. And so I kind of learned how to dance because I just wanted to do the shows. And I was never like good, like it was never going to be like, and then I'm going to be a professional dancer. It was just something I did to kind of maintain being able to like hold up in musicals. And I really do love dance, but I didn't compete or anything. And so then now as an adult, I'm kind of trying to, I miss it a lot, even though I'm surprised how much I miss it for something like my cousins were like, you do the Nutcracker every year, the professional company dancers. And so I was just never that. So I didn't consider it like a big part of my life, but I really do miss that kind of movement. I'm now a Pilates princess. And so that's kind of been taking the place. But whenever I get to do stunt work on set, like I think it's so fun. So I had like enough of a dance background where I was like, we can do a little bit more. We don't have to fake it all. Like I can do some stuff. And in the script, that leg hold is there where like we're fighting, I kick up and he just like grabs my leg and we keep talking. And I was like, we have to keep it. Like, let me stretch. Give me a couple days to stretch. Like I can do it. We'll practice it. Like we can do this. And so those stunt sequences, we had like a little bit of a rehearsal with our fitting. And then some of them, the shorter ones, like the opening one, when I come down the hallway and I take out the two guys, we choreographed that on the spot, and then just kind of ran it from there. But the long one that I have with David was a couple days of prep for it, and it took the whole day to film. And it was October, but it was LA October, so it was still so hot. And we were doing this sequence, and I've got the leather pants and the boots and the trench coat, and I'm just covered in sweat underneath. And we also we got those shoes, like those were my boots, because I remember we got there and the costume had new shoes, and I was like, I can't do this in these. I don't remember what the issue was. I think they were like tiny heels or something. I was like, this sequence is not gonna work. And so they Ubered, like someone Ubered, and Felix, like I was like, Felix, I need you to wake up. I need you to I've got these black boots in the closet. I need them now. And he threw them in an Uber for me, and they Ubered.
I forgot about that.
They Ubered the shoes to set before filming that sequence. And like, God save everyone involved, because they were necessary. I wouldn't have been able to do all that in heels, but it was fun. And David was like I don't think he doesn't have like a dance background, but he's an athlete for sure. And so he was able to pick up the choreography super well. And so the two of us got to play with it. And that was one of my most fun set days ever.
And that sounds like quite a luxury for Vertical, that you were given a day to do that. I mean, that sounds really rare from what I've been told.
Well, so what's starting to become pretty common now, which I love, you got to do a fitting. And if the production's telling you can't do a fitting, it's probably a red flag. Like, you need your fitting. And that kind of sometimes gets wrapped into a little bit of rehearsal, where you'll do like maybe just like a table read of like a couple pages, or you'll do a couple scenes. But if there's some kind of action too, like it kind of turns into like a fitting / rehearsal choreography day. So it was the same thing with that one as it was for Champion Sexy Coach.
Yeah.
Sexy Coach. Where we had a couple hours of like a rehearsal to kind of learn some fencing basics too. So
because one of the amazing things about Deadly Sweet Love now is that you're both equally active as kind of spy secret agent, which feels quite unusual for Vertical, because often it would be like, oh, well, he's going to be it and he'll rescue her, but she's as badass. If not, I think I decided she's probably slightly better than him. That was my theory. I thought your team was slightly more on it, because you took out, I think, his number 2 far too easily. And I was like,
way too easily.
I know, it was too easy for her, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was too easy, and she did the whole thing with like a cat eye and like a mini dress and like heels. Like, she just walks around like stunning, and then goes and like kicks ass in 6-inch heels, and then goes about her day with the same amount of energy that it takes him to do the whole thing in his dress shoes.
Exactly.
And I loved our assistants. the fact that we had assistants as like, and they had like, they were real characters and they weren't just like kind of, a lot of times those roles end up written as kind of like throwaways, which is so dumb because like give us an ensemble cast, like let's bring in some like real supporting characters, like they add so much to a story. And I felt like that was one of the first ones I'd seen in a minute where like our number twos kind of were more, they were our number twos, but they were badass in and of themselves, and they had their own missions and stuff going on, and their scenes like look great, and we had incredible actors, so that was really fun.
And it gives you as well, doesn't it, something to work off as well as the male lead. It gives your character more dimension if you've also then got that dynamic between the two of you. So yeah.
Yeah, we were like good friends.
So I have to ask then, you and your red dresses. Someone's worked out that you look very, very good in a red dress, haven't they? Because you've worn a few killer red dresses. I want to talk about Falling for a Superstar because it did win the fans' choice of Vertical of the Year, which I know surprised people, but that's what the vote said. I did recount. I was like, yeah, no, that's won by a clear country mile. And I think one of the things is when you look at it now, that is an insanely stacked cast, isn't it? And you look at
No, I came on set and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
But then I also think it has possibly my favourite scene ever in a Verticals, which is that entire meeting when your character waltzes in, you do the most terrifying... I don't know what you do with that cup and the straw, but there's something you do with your eyes that is truly terrifying. And poor old Brad, just your poor agent... It's like one step, I felt his pain and stress, he's one step away from a nervous breakdown, the entire thing, trying to deal with your career and your various things. It's just brilliant. Was that the first time that you really played that sort of villain, or had you done it before?
I feel like my villains are all kind of like shades of each other, but that was the one where I was like, I felt really free with it because, like you said, we had such a stacked cast. I mean, it's so insane. I mean, Ashley, I've now done 4 with, I think. Like, I feel like I consider Ashley to be my partner in Verticals before any man, like any of like the male co-stars. I'm like, no, I do my Verticals like with Ashley. And so I love working with her, and anytime I get a scene with her in it, and I've done her Mean Girl 3 of those 4 times too, and so I always feel like I have to like, my Mean Girls with Ashley are always, I care about them more too, because I'm like, I have to impress Ashley, and I have to give Ashley something good to work with, and like I have an opportunity too to like, you know, it's gonna be fun, and we have such a dynamic, and we know how to work together so well, and it's so fun. We can both push and pull, and like I feel like I always put a little bit extra care into my roles when I know they're opposite, like Ashley Michelle Grant. So she was in that scene, of course, and I'm, you know, total bitch to her and whatever, but it was a fun new villain too. Like, it was the first time I kind of got bored of the little rich girls who were just little rich girls, because like there has to be something more to your aspirations to be a compelling person than just wanting to maintain money. Like, that's just not very interesting. And so Amanda is like, she's a career bitch, and she's ruthless, and she's mean, and she doesn't care because she's gonna get to the top. Like, she's a social climber. And so that felt so much more driven and just so much more overall motivated authentically in all the scenes for her craziness. And like, what would you do for fame? What would you do for money? What would you do for power? Like, she knows what she's gonna do. So I felt in the getting to be Amanda just so much like freedom and depth to her in the writing that I'd been missing. So yeah, that and the Starbucks cup thing was because that was my Starbucks cup, and I didn't want to stop drinking my coffee. And they're like, okay, fine, you can keep drinking your coffee, but we have to give like 2 other people coffee cups too. But I took my Starbucks straw, and I was like, it'll be really creepy and like weird and like freaky if I like suck on it a little bit too much to get his attention. Like, it's gonna be a little slimy, and yeah, like you said, it's a little gross, it's a little terrifying.
But that's so interesting that's partly why that scene's so good, that you were allowed to put that in. And I've talked to Adam Chisnell, and obviously he was saying that he was allowed to do that FML that his character has on his blackboard stuck in that meeting. And it's interesting that the things
Yes.
that it's already great, but those little bits that made it genius for me are actually you all being given a little bit of freedom to, like, I think this will really work. Let's do it.
Well, my other favorite in that too is I decided Amanda's got to have like a heinous horse walk. Like she's gonna think that like in her head it's the like she's Giselle down the red carpet and she's like yes, and in reality she's like clunking along like she's like a car trying to start. And I got so many comments after that where people came out and they were like, you don't know how to walk, you walk horribly, and I was like, it worked. It worked. Like that was one of my other favorite details I've gotten to put into like a character physically, that translated. Because sometimes you do physical work and it just never. Or I did one called "Killing My Doctor Husband" was the original title, and it's with Ben Taylor. And I'm paralyzed, and then I regain the ability to walk. And I spent so much time trying to figure out, like, okay, at this point in the script, this is my physical ability, and at this point, and I did the whole thing, and then it came out, and like all of it was cut out. And you're just like, oh, okay. So it's so rare that like physical work in vertical specifically doesn't stand a good chance because things are so quick that it's like if you're not doing it on your line, it's getting cut out. Like whatever's on your line is all that's staying in, which is a huge challenge because you've lost 80% of your airspace, which is like your acting space, really. And so whenever physical work like that does get just kept in there and like noticed, it feels so gratifying. Like I finally, yes, thank you. So
And
that was
it's
really fun.
phenomenal. Have you done modelling?
Modeling,
Yeah.
a little bit. I technically have a modeling agent, but I think I gotta find a new one because it's not.
No, it's just because it's really interesting.
Yeah.
The other person in the vertical world who does a killer walk, slink, is Kelsey Maskell.
Kelsey
And I asked
Maskell.
her about it. She had a modelling background, and she said she was trying to bring some of that in. I feel we need the two of you up against each other with kind of like a physical walk-off, kind of bad up. I mean, that would be amazing.
Oh my God.
We need to cast that.
Imagine if we were like rival supermodels in a vertical.
Yes. You would like both be so awesome. Talking of that, are there kind of people that you're like, oh, I'd love to work with? Like, because obviously
Yeah.
you probably know quite a lot of each other, but haven't actually shared a set.
Well, I was joking. I was just with Eric, and I said that we are kind of the last to complete each other's like bingo cards of like working with vertical partners. We both have to check each other off, and I think he said I'm the last one on his before he gets the like full house. I really want to work with him, of course, and then Jackson Tiller. I've never led one with, but we had Amanda and what's his name? Anyway.
Austin.
But I'd love to. Austin, thank you.
Austin, yeah.
You know more about the show. You know more.
Oh yeah,
than
no,
I
if
do.
you don't need to remember, I'll remember it for you.
You got it. You got it. Yeah. You've got the whole catalog. Historians are going to come to you in like 20 years or 10 years when we're doing the documentary, and you're going to be a consulting producer, and they're going to have to read you. I want to work with all the girls. Like, I know all the girls say this, but we genuinely, like, we want to work together. We're all best friends. We love each other. When, like, we all think that, you know, it's like, here are the queens, here's, like, the goddesses, here's, like, the legion. They're all talented and gorgeous and incredible. And, like, I want nothing more than to be their scene partners. So I can list so many girls who I want to be back with. And I feel like I've gotten to work with more than I would have expected. Like, I feel very fortunate to have worked with as many of the girlies as I have. And I think that's largely because I do both the leads and the villains. And so you kind of, because some people only do leads, some people only do villains, and then some people do both. And I feel like as a both, like, I get to work with people in the other two categories who don't often get to work with each other. So that I feel super lucky to just like have that gift. And I'm about to next month go check another one of my favorite girls off the list. So I'm very, very, very excited for that.
Because that was really interesting because Nick Ritacco said that as well. That obviously the fact is because it's normally like male, female lead, he's actually not done much where he's been alongside other male lead actors unless he happens to be, as you said, an antagonist. Which is what, and
Yeah.
also everyone would watch these. We need like the buddies, or even just like two, as we said, you and Kelsey are supermodels, sort of sabotaging each other. I'm kind of thinking it would be like the equivalent of Zoolander, but for like verticals, where kind of you hate each other, but then come together against the greater evil or something. But yeah, it would be amazing to see that because I think because all of you are such people adore watching all of you, it makes total sense to me that should happen, and I think they're bringing the numbers.
I'm optimistic that it'll head that way. I think we're starting to see a little more creativity going into the casting and the storylines. And I just saw your post the other day about how there's like the blockbuster verticals and the indie verticals. I think like a lot of the indie verticals are kind of taking those creative risks a lot more. And so I'm optimistic and hopeful that like we will get a lot more storylines that are revolving around like multiple women, and maybe one day, maybe we'll get a Bechdel test winner. Maybe. I don't want to be too bold with that, but perhaps it's in the cards in like a couple years.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. So one of the great ones, you've kind of touched on it, where you have been able to have more of that interaction with like a female co-star is obviously the two you've just done with Ashley Michelle Grant. So we've got the one where you're the lead, Triple Life of My Accidental Husband, and then the one where Ashley's lead, which is Back Off the Prince's Mind, both of which have done really well. And I know you filmed back to back in Turkey.
Yes.
This is probably an unusual question to lead on, but shows my age. How nice was that house that you got to film in Triple Life of Accidental Husband? That was like the nicest house I've ever seen on verticals. It was gorgeous. The kitchen.
Oh, his wait, interior or exterior?
The interior. And there's like fire pits and it was just gorgeous. I'm sorry, I got totally taken. The house. I was all about the house in that vertical.
I mean, the house was incredible. That house was really, really stunning. And it had, if I'm remembering correctly, it had 4 stories. And the bottom of it was the swimming pool kidnapping location.
Oh, wow.
Like
That's
where
amazing.
we got tied up at the end inside that swimming pool was the basement level of that house. And that was why they ultimately picked it. I think Danny walked in and was like, oh fuck yeah, like this is where we're doing this. It was a super like cozy house. It was lovely. It was like tucked out of the way of everything. It had a pretty huge ground. And then yes, okay, I'm remembering the full thing of what not Aiden. Jenna, help me out. What's Rob's name in this one?
Adam. But he has many names because he's got
Adam.
that's the whole thing, isn't it? He's got triple life. He's got his 3 identities going on.
Someone Jeffries. Yeah. No, that house was pretty incredible. Turkey had the prettiest filming locations I've ever seen. Like all of our houses were, and we get a lot of mansions, but a lot of times they look kind of like cheap mansions, or they're places that are also filming locations for other types of movies. And so, and then we pulled up to the Turkey locations and all of them looked like, how did we get this? Like, where did this come from? It was stunning. And the exteriors were great. And we were faking it for America. And so there were so many like monuments and geographical components that didn't make it in because it was too obviously not America, but were so stunning. So I'm hopeful that we do an Istanbul vertical set in Istanbul, because some of those locations are just like breathtaking, mind-blowing, incredible, and I think they would blow up on screen.
Yeah. They've just done one actually on Drama Pops. They've done one called Too Young to Love Me. And they've gone, right, we need to embrace this. So basically they do go, the male character's like, I'm going to Istanbul, do you want to come with me? And then that means that they can do shots by the river and they can do the scenery. And I was like, see, that's so clever. That's all they needed was
Great.
that line, I'm going to Istanbul, are you going to come with me? And then you can show it all. It's amazing. So yeah. So then, obviously, you're a wonderful heroine in that, and then back off the prince's mine. I love Misha so much. I'm really sorry. I was rooting for you, and I really shouldn't have. I was like, I want her to get a man. Um, from the moment I think the character opens the cupboard, and you've got like your and just the total
Yeah.
gall of her of like, yeah, I'm her. Yeah, why wouldn't I be her? And just the fact that it never occurs to her, maybe I'm in too deep and I should back down. It just goes with the whole thing. Um,
Misha,
I want to ask about the bowing
the
because that
bowing.
is the one of the most hysterical things when Queen comes in and you don't just, I mean, you prostrate yourself and then
Yes.
your minions do as well. Was that scripted or was that you going, this is what we need to do?
It was scripted that I bow, but then I was like, is anyone gonna have like a big issue with it if I go swan dive to the floor? And camera said it was fine, and Lighted Genie said it was fine, and Danny said it was fine. So to the floor we went. And of course, my poor, gorgeous girls behind me have to do whatever I do, so I condemned them to have to go to the floor with me. But I think it paid off. Like, it was so fun. Misha is one of my favorite characters I've ever played in anything ever. Like, Misha is so fun. And there's an alternate universe where Ashley and I switched. So she would have done Jenna, and I would have done Pamela, and I would have done Sasha, and she would have done Misha. And then there was discussion before we started filming about switching things around, and I can't remember if they switched it and that was what we filmed, or if it was initially the one thing we switched to the other, but it shuffled around a couple of times. And so then when I ended up doing Misha, I was like, oh hell yeah, like Misha's gonna be my favorite character, like, of the four of them, of these girls. And she was just so unhinged, and I feel like a lot of vertical characters or a lot of vertical villains are written to like try to be unhinged, but it's not super cohesive. And Misha was like, she had a goal, she had a journey, and she had like something she was gonna get out of this that's like beyond the man. Like, it wasn't even about the guy. Misha was gonna be a princess, and that's all that like anyone needed to know. And she was very Anna Delvey to me. I took my inspiration from Anna Delvey. Just scheme. It's like, she's bold. She's clearly feels like she's got nothing to lose. Maybe there's a little bit of like Pearl in there. And she's like, she's gonna be a star, and that's kind of it. And the most fun part about that whole web and the incredible writing we had was I felt like I had Misha had three different modes. She has her being like the fake mean girl, like, to Pamela and anyone who's gonna cross her. And then with Ralph, she's probably the most genuine and just like pissed off and annoyed constantly with her idiot little brother who can't seem to follow any goddamn instructions and is gonna ruin this whole thing. And then whenever she gets caught or is putting on like her persona, I picked Valley Girl. And I remember there was a point when we were filming this when I asked Danny, I was like, okay, is it working? Like, what do you think? And he's like, well, it's all we've got, so they're gonna have to use it.
I mean, that's a bit blunt, isn't it? Great feedback.
He's like, I don't know, Molly. I don't know if they're gonna like it, but that's all we've done for this scene is you giving Valley Girl, so she's gonna be a Valley Girl. And I was like, perfect, great.
It's so good. And one of the ones I have to ask as well, because obviously you're talking about the fact that there's kind of that trust between you and Ashley, which presumably made the cake scene easier.
The cake scene! Oh my god, the cake scene. So the cake scene was originally a fountain push, and Danny Farber, our Lord and Savior, was like, we're not putting the girls in the fountain in February in Istanbul. We're not doing it. And also, there's a lot of fountains, whatever. He said, we're doing cake. So he had this vision. This was all his vision. He's like, we're doing cake smash instead. And the thing was, I don't know why, because of course, we only had one cake. Like, let's just raise the stakes. We had one single cake on set, and it was this huge thing. Like, it was crazy massive and gorgeous. And we were going to do this cake scene, and Ashley and I knew we were doing this cake thing the whole day, and you're kind of dreading it, and you're like, all right, all right, all right. And so we were so kind of nervous because it's like, it's not gonna be as bad as you're imagining, but you're imagining it being horrible. And it was real cold. I remember that. It was really cold. Istanbul gets cold in the winter. We were freezing. I do have to say our costume department was incredible about like layering us up with like all kinds of stuff. And our production team was incredibly supportive with like heat patches and heaters and water bottles and like our trailers and like robes, and they were great. But we had this like basically frozen cake then, and we could only do one take of it, of course. And so when I had to smash it in her face, we had so much discussion. I was so nervous about messing it up. We double checked so many times. I've got the video of us, like someone has a behind the scenes video of us, I think it's on my Instagram, of the actual initial cake smash. And before we did it, I was like, are we positive? Like I'm frozen, I'm in the right location, we can see everything, we're good. And they gave us the all clear, so we did it. And then the challenge was don't laugh, because we pull it down and she's dripping in cake and she's staring at me like, and I'm staring at her like, and we're both trying not to lose our shit as there's like pieces of cake falling off of her. And then we have to do the whole thing on me. And the challenge of this was there was a window behind me, and so you could see it getting day to night. And so for like the sake of not having the window's continuity be destroyed, we had to flip the world in an unusual way. So we were on a time crunch for this. And so then when it comes back to, so the whole time Ashley is sitting there with cake while we flip the world, which isn't a quick process, by the way. And they were like, do you want to wipe off? And she's like, no, we're gonna have to redo it. And so my hands are covered in cake and I'm afraid to move them. And so I'm walking around like a T-Rex, and Ashley's just got a cake all over her face and the frosting is like melting off. If you've ever wanted to know what frosting feels like on your face, it's like if you put Vaseline on and didn't rub it in. It's oily. It like melts your pores. Yeah. And the frosting gets stuck. It finds its way into every fine line and crease and little nook and cranny it can. You will be pulling cake frosting, buttercream out of your forehead for a week after. So we let it solidify on ourselves and then flipped it around. And she nailed it. It tasted pretty good, I will say. We ate some chunks off the floor, I must admit. And it was the chocolate chips were pretty yummy, especially as like a little pick me up at the end of a long day. And then we just baby wiped ourselves down in the bathroom as best we could. And then poor Ashley had to go film another scene.
Oh, so you were done. You could go and
that was my last scene of the day.
A very long shower and clean oneself. So yeah.
I think I got a Turkish scrub down bath like at the hotel. I was like, yeah, I need someone to professionally clean this off me. It looks great.
Well, thank you both of you for suffering, because I think that's one of those ones of it delivered amazingly on screen. So thank you for suffering for the art.
Always.
Scoring My Sexy Coach has just come out as we film this. Which has got a little bit of action again, sporting superstar. Because obviously the whole context is it's all about you training to become a fencing champion and then competing with your twin sister, who is slightly unhinged and played by Jess Jacoby. Was that quite unusual? Because I can't even think of like mainstream movies with fencing, let alone, you're like, have I seen fencing on film before? It just feels so different. And I mean, I've watched kind of quite a lot of Chinese dramas, and I mean, I've managed to watch, there's a brilliant one, which is basically all about pool and snooker, which you would never think would translate. But I can't even remember one that they did about fencing. So
I did find there's been at least one other fencing one that has happened on another app that I saw, but I don't know the title of it, and I only know because I saw like a picture. So we were not, unfortunately, the first. I thought we were the first, and I was kind of devastated to find out we were not. But yeah, I got the script. I went to when I was talking with Ale and Audrey, who work at or the EPs of. Sorry, I have an intimacy coordinator texting me. Shorts app Shorts, and Fumero Films, Ale and Audrey, who I absolutely adore, were like, we've got this fencing script. And I was like, fencing? The heck? And they're like, just read it, let us know what you think. It's like twins, whatever. And I fell in love with the script. And I was like, this is so fun and dynamic. And yeah, this is fun. It's like niche and weird and random, but absolutely. And I never would have considered like fencing as a thing I was going to do up until that point. And then when we had like our first training day, it was so fun. It was really hard and really fun. And it was clear that, of course, they'd already hired stunt doubles. We were not going to be able to do like those sequences by ourselves. And so they brought in our incredible stunt team. Caitlin is my, actually, I'll send you can link their like Instagrams handles below because they're not getting enough credit of our stunt team. The lovely Caitlin was my stunt double. And then a guy named Anakin took over for Sam. His name is Anakin, and he's a fencer, which was like such a pairing. And he was like internationally ranked or nationally ranked or something like that. Like he was up there. And then we had two actresses or stunt performers who played Lauren. And then we had another guy who filled in for Leo. And then our stunt coordinator who oversaw the whole thing and taught us. And it was the first time I've had that intense stunt work. And this was the most physical vertical I've ever done. And I loved it. Like, I only ever want to play athletes again. I loved playing an athlete. It was so fun. And my training montage was the time of my life. They were like, this is your training montage. And I was like, this is my training montage. I've always wanted one. So, they light you from the side, so your muscle definition is like popping, and it's like dark and moody, and you're in like a little tracksuit, and you're like doing push-ups to music, and I was like, this is it. This is what I've like dreamed of. So that was a blast. And then every time we got to do some fencing, we did a couple of the sequences ourselves, the simple ones where you can see your faces clearly. And then we would do like the first move and the last move of like the sequence before our doubles came in, and of course did the actual fencing. And watching them was so much fun. You're like, it was like a nice little break. It was like a water break. It's like, all right, actors tap out. Okay, bye. And then we did share some of the costume pieces, and because our fitting was we did it the day before, so we didn't have time to get like doubles and stuff like that for our doubles. And so we were sharing sweat. I told Caitlin we were making like our own perfume line of like a really lovely combination of our like body odors throughout the day. And it was the first vertical I've filmed like sweaty from start to finish. Like, you get there in the morning, you're like, all right, gonna be gross, here we go. And being glamorous and also like sticky and sweaty was like new for me in the vertical space. Usually you're like very clean. And this was like, nope, you're gonna run a bunch of laps, and you're gonna do some mountain climbers, and you're gonna do the stunt sequence 17 times, and then you're gonna go have your intimacy scene. But it was just a blast getting to work with like our bodies that much, because so often it's a walk and a talk, or you stand and it's just coverage, and that's it. And this one was so dynamic. And I keep hitting my computer. Sam's such an incredible like actor too, that I felt like we were pushing against each other a lot more than I usually do, and the characters felt dynamic and authentic, and then Jess and I became best friends, of course, and so all of my scenes with her were just like, we felt like we were little kids playing dress up again in our matching little schoolgirl uniforms, like running around bitching at each other. I loved it.
I wonder what was going on with those schoolgirl uniforms at a college? Was the idea that it was like a private college or something?
It was private. It's private school. And
okay, right.
That's it. I did see a couple of people were like,
it looks great. Yeah.
I love their uniforms, and our whole costuming in that one I really loved. I think everyone looked incredible, and sometimes there's like a couple outfits where you're like, I felt like everyone looked good the whole time. Like, everything fit, it looked nice, it was coordinated, and the uniforms looked really well.
Did have issues with his shirt, and that he doesn't have one a lot.
Oh, Sam not having a shirt? Yeah.
It was at the beginning. I was like, this poor man needs a shirt. But then there is one. Some of the outfits he's got are really good, but then he's got a tracksuit which is slightly slipping towards a shell suit. It's a bit fella,
Oh,
that blue one. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Take the shirt off. I understand now. That's
valid, valid, valid. Sam loved his tracksuits. He's a big fan. They're super comfortable. So he always wanted to be in the tracksuits. Especially, I think that blue one, we got that in there for
yeah.
sure.
And obviously, it's just
And I
different
feel
for you guys, isn't it? Because I mean, particularly, I mean, I was thinking about as a male lead, you're in a suit, aren't you, most of the time? So to actually get to wear something a bit different must be quite freeing.
yeah, we've got it's like the vertical staple wardrobe is like a plain black tux, and the black on the suit and the pants doesn't have to match, just like two vaguely black pieces, with some kind of brightly colored tie. And then the girls in like a long maxi skirt and 5-inch heels, and then a blouse up to the neck and like long sleeves. It's that white blouse with the tie. You know what I'm talking about? It shows up in every other vertical, the silky white thing. I hate that blouse. If I ever see that blouse again, I'm gonna burn it. We get that blouse all the time, and I don't know why that has become the vertical blouse, but it's horrible, and no one ever, it's not flattering on anybody. And like, thank God, like, so like the actresses of course are always like gorgeous enough where it doesn't matter what they're wearing, but I keep seeing it and I'm like, I thought that was supposed to die in 2023, and they keep bringing back, there's that blouse, and then there's this blue pattern. It's actually cute. It's kind of like a gingham, like light blue puff sleeve dress that like 9 or 10 of us minimum have worn. I wore it in Billionaire Callboy. I know it's in one scene of that, and I think Kira's worn it 3 times. So
Okay,
keep
I'm
an eye
like
out
looking it
for
up
the.
now. That one. I need to find that one because I got obsessed with the green dress that Real Short had, that a lot of actresses wore. So yeah, I need to find that one now. So like, thank you.
I
That's like my homework.
Real Short had a green dress, and then I repeated one of Avery's looks from Double Life in We're Never Ever Getting Back Together, and I think it ended up being the poster look, and a lot of people noticed. I still get comments every once in a while where people are like, "Is that Natalie's dress?" I'm like, "It is." That's really the attention to detail, but it's great. It's flattering. It's cute. So maybe that one is in more secretly that I don't know about.
Going back just to the fencing, kind of what was the key thing you were told of how you sell I'm an expert fencer? Was there like one or two things you were told, like you need to just this pose, or yeah, what was the advice you were given?
We got a very basic kind of lesson, and so the critical things, of course, I think your posture is important. You like stand, it feels very strange, you like stand. Here's my little sweatshorts I'm wearing. You stand up like this, and your instinct is to kind of like hinge over a little bit, and it's like it's a very upright thing, and you kind of like you hold it with like 2 fingers. You're not like gripping it, you're just like you're like balancing it a little, the foil or the sword or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so it feels completely counterintuitive. And so getting that down of like you stay there and then you just like stay, like there's no movement. But camera loved it because like we stayed put the whole time. And then we learned how to do the advance and retreat, which is basically just like a little shuffle. But if your posture's down, it ruins the illusion. And then we got a little bit more freedom because it was supposed to be a little bit more cinematic. And so the movements are incredibly precise and small, but we were told to go bigger with our strikes a lot of times just to sell the like intensity on camera. So we didn't have to learn like the technique as much, honestly. But Sam had quite a bit as the coach that he had to learn, of how to sell like the language of it.
Yeah.
Like when you call a match and stuff, and when you're like explaining the drills, like the announcing is a big thing. So I didn't have to do any of that, but he had to learn how to sell being a coach and like what the responsibility of a coach is in the fencing world. And it's intense. Fencing is really intense. Fascinating sport. Didn't know anything about it before this project.
So, we've talked about fencing. Are there other hidden talents that you would love to put on screen, or also things that you would like to learn in the way that you got to learn a little bit about fencing for verticals? You know, what skills could we see there?
The only thing that's coming to mind is like something I've done really cool was in the fencing. The in the second in one of the banquet scenes when Leo challenges me to the strip fence thing or whatever the hell, and I have to take his shirt off. I actually did that. And I was beyond proud of it because I was anticipating it to be like impossible. I was like, there's no way. And I tried it and I got it. So I was like, please let me do it. Please let me do it. And they let me do it in the end of like a really long take of that whole, it was a really long scene. And they were doing it all the way through. And they're like, okay, and then on this one, Molly's going to do it. And so if I messed it up, we were going to have to like break the momentum of this like 7-minute take, which you never get in verticals. Like you don't ever get it. And so then if you break the momentum of it, it's like, well, there we go. We're not getting to do that again. So I was so nervous and I did it and I got it. And I think I probably nicked them a little bit, but they're flat. It's not, there's nothing, I didn't stab anybody. But they yelled cut on that one, and I've never been more proud of myself for anything I've ever accomplished in my life than I was for unbuttoning that shirt on camera.
Well, that is phenomenal.
That's my biggest.
And everyone needs to know that. That is skills. That's like absolute skills to be able to do that. Just kind of more generally, where do you see verticals going? What would you like for your career? What projects have you got coming up? You know, just the big open-ended questions.
The general verticals. Of course, I mean, you and I are so in alignment about where the verticals need to go from like a morality standpoint. And I love your quote of like, they don't have to make the world better, they just can't make it worse. And you're so like, that is so, didn't your teenager say that?
That's my 13-year-old, yeah. That's the one who walked around London when she was 3 and said hello to everyone.
Hi.
Yeah.
I mean, she's exactly right about that. Like, we don't need to do anything that's gonna like be considered humanitarian. Like, this is not gonna be the thing that like changes the course of history. But I very, very strongly believe in the power of media, especially in the digital age where like all of our information and everything that's going into our brains is media and digital media. And now there's like AI left, right, and center. It's like, you can't contribute to something that's already, you know, potentially like a sinking ship with like rocks. Like, we can't be doing that. So, of course, like, we need to see more diversity in every aspect of these verticals, from like, who are we telling these stories about? Who are we telling these stories to? What are we trying to say here, if anything? And if nothing, let's keep it that way. So, it's been the battle that's been waging since 2023, and these first started, and we first started saying like, hey, we got to fix that. And as actors, it's like, we hold the power of being able to be on set or in negotiations with the project and edit that way. Like, you can say before you sign on to something like, I need this changed, and sometimes they'll do it, and then sometimes you depart the project, and other times you can be on set and be like, I'm not feeling good about this, and we can change, you know, whatever the action is. But after the thing has been made, like after it's been filmed, there's nothing we can do about it anymore, and then it depends on how much money it makes. And so that's where the power of what continues to be made in the future largely goes to the fans and the people who are buying these. And so long as the abuse stories continue to make money, they will continue to be made. And as creatives, actors, directors, producers, whoever, we're incredibly replaceable. And we're talking about billion-dollar companies. Like, they don't care. They don't care. Like, they don't even know who we are. Like, they don't care at all what we have to say. And you can make the change at the level that you can reach, but after a certain point, the numbers talk. And so if we want them to stop being made, they have to stop performing well. And we can refuse to make them all day long, and they can replace us before we've even quit. You know, it doesn't matter in that sense. So it's kind of a tricky situation because we know, just like media literacy, that rage bait does really well. Things that intentionally piss people off, like get the clicks, get the views. Clickbait works. Clickbait always works. And so, they can show the really great quality stuff and it's not going to get viewed as much because there's nothing enraging about it. And then we see, essay on camera, or like girls getting beat, or like just the most hideous things being said. And then people are going to click on that because the verticals aren't just competing with the other verticals and mainstream Hollywood. They're also competing with every TikTok video that anybody's ever posted. Like, they're just social media videos in the void. And so it's like, the stuff that performs is the stuff that makes people feel strongly, and negative emotions sell. So my hope for where this goes is that they keep kind of the social media presence, but they get more integrated into the Hollywood system, and they start being seen as a legitimate form of filmmaking and less of just like another version of a YouTube, short. Yeah. And so we can try to keep the outreach, but push some stuff that's got a little bit more integrity and beauty and quality and creativity to it, and appeal to a larger audience. Because I think the format, of course, clearly the format works. It's why all of our social media apps are worth billions and billions and trillions of dollars. And so it's just like, how do you bridge the gap from these incredibly romantic stories to other genres that would attract other audiences? Because of course it's out there, but you can't just switch up content like that. It has to be a process. And again, like you talked about with the indies and the blockbusters, it's like some companies are willing to take those risks. And then others just want to stick to where the money goes. So it's just a matter of time before some of the more creative stuff breaks through the wall and really does get that momentum, but it is going to take some more time. But it's moving fast. So I think within the next couple of years, especially now with so many creatives from the verticals getting into the production side and starting to take full control over what they're participating in, I think we are headed in a good direction. I'm not jumping ship, and I'm not going to be, I refuse to be pessimistic about these until they're really like down the drain gone. But I think we're far away from that.
It's really interesting you're saying that. Is that something that interests you, writing or directing or producing?
Yeah, I really want to start directing these. I did it in college and a little bit beyond, and I love it. I think it's so fun. And I've directed little parts of verticals before, and I love it. I love all of it. I don't want to act and direct at the same time. But I'm also, I want to get into writing. My goal is to have one done this summer, written. I've got some like starts, but I haven't committed, I'm going to be honest. But I think it's important just to have options open too, especially because actors are like the most replaceable. And so if you want to start taking more creative control, you have to take it. You do. So cheers.
Watch this space. I think that's a really good watch this space answer there. Can I just ask you some fun questions at the end? Are you all right to keep going? Because I've used quite a lot of your time.
No,
okay. Right, you are a famous Molly. Do you have another famous Molly, or a favourite namesake?
Molly Ringwald, I've always felt real attached to.
Yeah.
Gotta love her.
Favourite Molly Ringwald movie?
Breakfast Club. Classic. I mean, keep it classic. Keep it classic. My grandma said that.
I have another question as well, which is, obviously you're a phenomenal comedy actress, but also action star. Who are your favourite female comedy actresses and action stars?
Ooh. Okay. Starting with comedy actresses, I feel like all of the women from the early 2000s, like SNL era, like are all people I look to a lot. Like especially, have you seen the one clip from the Emmys where it was Best Comedy Actress, and Amy Poehler was the first announced, and she goes up on stage and they treat it like a pageant show?
I haven't seen it, no. But I will.
They just, all the nominees go one by one. they like hold hands and they're like pretend like they're getting like a pageant announcement, and then I think I can't remember who won, but they crown her and then everyone's like freaking out. Yeah, okay. That whole group, if you find that video, that whole group is like big comedy actresses.
Yeah.
Current comedy actresses though, or I guess like of my generation, I think Rachel Sennett is freaking hilarious. Iowa Dabiri is one of the best actresses of our generation. She's going to be one of like the greats of the greats of the greats for sure. I do a little Alexis Rose. I love like all the Schitt's Creek women. I mean, Catherine O'Hara is like the funniest anyone's ever been in that show. All right, let me give you some action stars. I feel like Sydney Sweeney's gonna be an action girl here pretty soon. Like, I'll put my money on her.
Yeah, you can see it, can't you? As soon as you said that, I'm like, of course. Why hasn't she been in something? Yeah, there's action.
Well, she's got her wrestling movie coming out here soon. That's kind of action. And she's already been in the Marvel universe. No, she's not Marvel. She was in the Sony universe or something. She was in the one really bad one with Dakota Johnson that got her Sony connects. I think she's gonna be an action star. I'm putting my money on it. I loved Angelina Jolie's work in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That was incredible. She looked great. Brie Larson's work in her Marvel stuff was pretty incredible. Jennifer Lawrence and everything she did for the whole Hunger Games franchise. Also Shailene Woodley through Divergent. Loved that. Yeah, I was raised in the era of like post-apocalyptic dystopian like heroine like girl growing up and like having to fight the society. And so that was kind of my childhood dream, was like, I want to go be one of those girls. I want to do that, like sort me into my little whatever it is society and let me like
you have a bow like
while
Katniss?
Wearing like
Quite a lot of people told me
do
that
archery.
they had a bow. Yeah, it's like I wanted to be Katniss and I had a bow. So
100%.
excellent. Okay, and then now a really random question for you, but just I feel it might give an insight into how you think. Desert Island. What 3 things do you take?
My moisturizer. I am a crusty dry bitch and I cannot experience happiness if my lips are chapped or my skin feels dry and flaky. I will not be in a good mood the entire time. My water bottle. I go everywhere with my water bottle. If I don't have my water bottle, I'm not in a good mood. But I'm big on hydration. I would not take my bunnies because that's just like not fair to them. Like I wouldn't take any other living thing because that's not the vibe. I'll introduce you to my bunnies real quick before I get off.
I'm like, we can't just not talk about the bunnies now.
I know. I've got to show you the bunnies. My third thing is probably going to be, we're on an island. Well, sunscreen.
I love it. See, that's all really
sunscreen.
practical. Yeah, you're going to be safe, hydrated,
I'm assuming
and moisturised. It's perfect.
this is like operating under the assumption I can't save myself.
Oh yeah, it'll be fine.
Like, yeah.
I need to know about the bunnies. Can we talk about the bunnies?
Yeah, let me go get them. Okay, so this is Rudy.
Oh,
This is little Rudy. He's only 5.
Oh
He's
my
been my
goodness.
baby since I was in college. He was a pandemic baby. He hates being held. He's my sweetheart. He almost died when I brought him to LA. It was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. He's fine now. He's got these big old feet, and he's just like my sweet little teddy bear prince boy. Oh, yes. And then I was worried that he was lonely, and so I made sure that we got him a girlfriend, and they hated each other. So here's her. This is Rudy. Oh my goodness. Okay. And then this is little Rue.
Oh,
She's the tiniest little thing in the world.
she's so
And
small.
she's so angry.
Okay.
She's so little. She's a little Netherlands. And she is, I think that she was like a bog witch who got trapped inside like a little bunny's body like 400 years ago, and she's so angry about it. She's so mean to her boyfriend, and he's kind of stupid though. Like he doesn't understand that she just wants kisses and attention, and he just like won't give it to her. And then she gets mad and she bites his ass and she runs around, and she's so mean, and she's destroyed all of our books, and like she eats them, and she ate our couch, and she's such a terror. But she's traumatized. She's 3 years old and she's a double widow. Her past two husbands died, and so she's like has her heart closed off to love, and she's afraid to open
That's
it
a
back
lot
up
to
again.
deal with.
So
Yeah.
she's a,
Oh.
I at 3 years old too.
Oh, it's too much. And do they have free reign? Are they kind of allowed
So
to
this is-
just go around the house?
Yeah, and they like won't. They won't move. They stay in their little. They've got a little rug, and they just kind of stay there. But we open them up. We open up the apartment door to the hallway, and let them run around the hallway. And Rudy like doesn't care. Like he'll come out and like walk back inside. He does not give a shit about exercise. Rue does laps. She goes fucking sprinting. She goes crazy, and she goes and she harasses like cleaning ladies who are trying to do laundry. She like runs into the laundry room and like sits there. Like, Rue, leave people alone. She's not polite. But she's so adorable.
She is absolutely adorable. And I have to ask, how accepting were they of Felix?
So Felix and Rudy, like, bonded, like, early on when Felix, like, watched Rudy. Gosh, she's, like, shedding. It's shedding season for bunnies. But then Rue and Felix have come a long way. They were not the best of friends at first. They did not like each other. She did not like him. He did not like her. It was a whole ordeal. And now she's like the little princess. Like, this is baby girl. Like, this is the tiny little sweetheart little bit. She is shedding so much. Oh, this is horrible. Bunnies shed a lot twice a year.
So the amount of hair that comes out of something so small is phenomenal. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a...
Thanks, Rue.
But no, but this is crucial, you see. This is the thing, isn't it? When you meet a partner and you've already got pets, it's really down to the pets whether the partner is allowed into your life.
They got a lot. Well, Felix loves it. That's Rudy. Felix loves animals. He had animals growing up. He's always been like a big animal guy. So he's great. They love him. They absolutely adore him, and he's wonderful with them. They get along very well.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad that they kind of passed the test with each other, so all could be well. I can't thank you enough because you've been an absolute superstar and talked to me for ages. So just huge,
Thank
huge
you.
thank you.